There is an influential section of the legal scholarship that has made the argument that the crisis of governance in contemporary Africa has been a deadly combination of bad constitutions, often imposed and subsequently serially amended to create imperial presidencies on one hand, and an absence of constitutionalism, the absence of a culture to obey and respect rules on the other. Coupled with bad leadership and general institutional malaise, the transition to democracy has been inchoate, dominated by reversals at every stage. The result? A tortured population inhibited from realizing its full potential, an institutional culture of timidity, even where no threats exist, and a society and politics characterized by violence, fragility, and instability. The economic, political, and human costs have been incalculable. Hence the reason we must not be blithe and casual in our treatment of constitutional texts, once freely enacted after years of struggle and sacrifice. There is no doubt that Kenya has a very progressive constitution. It is long, not just in size, but also in aspirations. An ambition of a nation codified and expressed in very clear accents. And it was also long in coming, itself a denotation or proof of the importance of this social contract. But we will only live it if we understand it, only if we embrace it, and only if we respect it. As leaders and citizens, there are three simple tests we must meet in order to breathe life into this Constitution. For those who may be tempted to bear the illusion that constitutions are mere pieces of paper, I want to invite you to reflect on this fact. It is not by accident that when state officers take office, whether in the executive, legislature, or the judiciary, or even in other independent constitutional offices, they are required to take an oath as prescribed in the Constitution. If it did escape your attention before, now it must not. Whereas those oaths bear different textual forms, there is always a common refrain: to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution and other laws. The meaning of this ubiquitous line is direct. All state officers are creation of the Constitution and the law. Its implication is plain and simple. In the words of a philosopher who was here long before us, "Be ye so high, the law is above you." Its political and philosophical foundation is very clear. The Constitution is a social contract among citizens, and once leaders are elected or appointed into office, they are sworn and bound to respect this contract. Citizens and leaders of this country must internalize and understand why the assumption of high office is preceded by the taking of an oath that constantly binds them to act in accordance with and defend the provisions of the Constitution. Understanding the import of this basic act is the beginning of living our Constitution. And leader who doesn't is unfit to be in office. Any citizen who hasn't is failing the test of good citizenship. Strict compliance with the Constitution and the law is so important that it forms the first ground for impeachment of the president. But this law that is above all of us and which we must do our duty to obey is not an imposition It's a product of popular will and consent to be ruled by its edict. The excitement and good spirit of this conference today may very easily obscure or conceal its tragic origins. These series of dialogues are an expression of institutional failure. It is because of the failed electoral system, a failed judiciary, a failed police force, and a general failure of the state in 2007-2008 that provided the basis for this and other consultations before it. Restoring confidence and faith in our institutions is part of living our Constitution. It is a small thing that we do as institutions and citizens that begin the process of building confidence. The promulgation of the Constitution on 27 August 2010 was a historic moment in our country. The Constitution was a combination of the work of a lifetime for most people in this gathering and many other Kenyans not at this meeting. It may also stand out in history as the singular achievement of Kenyans in this time. Needless to say, many Kenyan persons paid for the achievement of this constitutional dispensation with their tears, blood, and sweat. Lives and personal liberty were lost. Friendships were strained, and families were shattered. It's all too easy to forget these heavy prices paid by our compatriots. In short, we need to remember that the consideration for this social contract, that is Kenya's Constitution, was the highest possible price the citizens could have paid for it. For that reason, the taking of effect of this Constitution is an achievement of a once far-off dream. Yet my concern is that there appears not to have been a proper appreciation of the essence of this Constitution after its promulgation. From the statements, actions, inactions, and perfidy that is evident among some citizens, some authorities, and persons are signals of another reversal in our democratic transition that has been the bane of most African countries is becoming evident. Some of these actions are by default, others are by design, but the category does not matter, for their cumulative effect is the same. I have come to the inescapable conclusion that there are Kenyans at all levels who are yet to make the mental shift to the national and individual contact that the Constitution heralds. It is depressing that 1 year after the promulgation of the Constitution, the country falls in the corruption index. We still hear of extrajudicial killings. Institutions and leaders play fast and loose with constitutional deadlines and so on. Constitutional provisions are there to be obeyed, and any public or state official who finds certain clauses administratively inconvenient must be reminded that the vacation of office is an honorable option if one no longer feels capable of honoring his or her oath of office to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution.